For each of the chapters, the goal is to give you an overview, not to lecture about the whole chapter, but to give you some of the key points from the readings, because you'll be reading the chapter, answering some of those questions, and then I want to just give you some major points, and then also draw out your attention to some of the points that are going to go with some of your assignments. So for this first chapter, it's all about wellness, fitness, and lifestyle management. And for the chapter, you're going to have several things that you want to learn or gain from the end of the reading. So you should have these components after you read. The major things to know is that we're going to look at wellness itself and what it means. I'm not going to go over the health issues. That's part of the reading. I don't think I need to describe that because that's really quite well described in the textbook. I have a real quick overview of the behavior management plan, and then I have another quick video about how to set up your plan. We have made a difference about wellness, and there's a new terminology, relatively new terminology. And instead of talking about health, which was really more likely referred to about not being sick, we talk about wellness, which is looking at living a life of full capacity, of having not just a physical body that is, but also having a those are my dogs. Having a life that has good relationships, that you have good emotional wellness, good happiness with your job, and we're going to look at those components as well. When we discuss how we can become more of a well individual, we identify risk factors, and those are the things that are going to increase the likelihood of having a disease or an injury. Depending on what resource that you look at, if you look at the older story of wellness, you would find resources that say there are 7 dimensions of wellness. Now you can find up to 9 dimensions of wellness. You can find dimensions of wellness within the field of psychology, of let me think. Well, in my field. So if you look, you can look at in finances. So you can look in different specific fields and find different specific wellness categories or dimensions. In the overall field of wellness, in terms of the whole being, there are primarily these dimensions, and we're going to look at those and see how they all fit together to make you have the likelihood of having a good life, a healthy, well-fulfilled, meaningful, purposeful life. Briefly, whenever we think about wellness, we think about our body. We think about our appearance, our ability to perform activity, whether or not we are exercising, how fit we are, and if we are taking care of ourselves. The emotional wellness has become more important I think not more important, but we've become more aware of the importance of it. And that is especially since we've had the pandemic. We've had a lot of struggles with some individuals still having residual effects of being having to stay home, not being able to have interactions with some individuals. Some individuals flourished, other individuals suffered. So we have the emotional wellness, being able to understand and really attend to your feelings, your emotions, and also to recognize others' emotions. Intellectual wellness is partially why you're in learning. It's being curious, always looking for why, understanding, having a curiosity of why things change. And so in your field, you're going to continuously be looking for new developments. That's why I don't ever get discouraged, because there are curious minds doing research and developing new ways of solving problems, and we cannot rest in our we can't rest, because there's always more to learn and to understand. If you look at the oceans, we know so little about the oceans because we haven't been able to access the deep oceans. Nutrition, so much more to learn about nutrition. There's so much inaccuracy that we hear on a daily basis in um, TikTok or in social media. So be aware, there's so much more to learn, and where we learn and how we learn and who we trust. We want to look at valid resources whenever we're learning our new materials. And you might be the person that does those discoveries. Interpersonal wellness has to do with your ability to develop relationships. Digital wellness is being able to identify good sources of information and identifying how you interact with social media. How do you respond? Is it um, how we use our media to share information? Is that the only way that we get our information, etc.? Cultural wellness is relatively new. That is become more prevalent as we look at the differences. There are many ways of looking at differences. If you are a first year student or you have been one taking the first year seminar at some point, you have learned about strengths and the way that we need. Some people have strengths that are in let's see here, strategy. Some people are really good at relationships. Some people are very good at problem solving. But we all have different strengths, and then we learn to work together, and we all need each other. We're all different, and celebrating our differences, whether it be our intellectual differences, our cultural differences, our where we come back understanding, accepting others' values, and not pushing our own onto someone else, celebrating our differences. That's cultural awareness. Spiritual wellness is so much more than just your religious beliefs. It has to do with your ethics, your morals, your principles, those guiding values that give you purpose in your life. It could be volunteering. It could be whether or not it's important for you to be kind, to help others, to volunteer. So that's that's in the spiritual wellness realm. Environmental wellness is about your personal surroundings and also the planet. And we don't have direct impact on our planet per se, but cumulatively we have direct impact on the health of our planet. So we can start individually, in our community, locally, on how we treat our planet, how we use things, how we decrease our overuse. Do we have too many things? Do we buy things in excess? Do we repurpose things? Do we share? Right? How do we have waste? That's environmental wellness. Financial wellness, we're going to have a couple classes on that. That is managing your money and being able to have a sense of peace on how you manage your money. And occupational wellness is having a fulfillment in your work. Now, notice it is not necessarily about how much money you make, but it is about feeling that you have a contribution, that you feel that you can move up that ladder, that you have the capacity to contribute to your to the business, that you have that you have meaning, that you're appreciated, that your people around you work together, and that you like your coworkers. Occupational wellness is really important because you spend a lot of your time working in your life. And as you look at figure 1.1, you look at there's a number of behaviors that are going to be linked, and these are just examples that are associated in each one of those dimensions. So one of the assignments that you're going to work through this semester is identifying one of those dimensions, and is there something that you want to focus on and say, you know what, I really think I would like to become more, I want to work on my study habits, and that would be intellectual wellness. I want to uh, take take a hold at my how I want to have a better work relationship with the people that I work with, or find a job that, even though it's while I'm on college, I want to find work that, I like who I work with. I don't like it right now. I want to look for an internship that is going to fit what I need. That would be occupational. So this is a nice figure to look at as we look at making our project for the semester. So what kind of factors are going to help us to become well? Well, one of them is going to be become physically active. And physically active includes moving more, and physical activity is really the umbrella of being moving more. Exercise is the specific purpose of moving at the gym, for example, or playing tennis, or going to lift, playing racket sports, or taking a yoga class. If you're doing this course for the essential studies, then taking one of the PEGN classes would be completing that requirement. And so one of the physical activity courses would be fitting the physical active component. And we're looking at just being less sedentary, so moving more. We know that if we're more regularly physically active, that we have an improvement in our ability to sleep, we burn more calories, we end up having healthier muscles, joints, we improve our body composition. We also decrease these risks, and the risks of developing chronic diseases like heart diseases. We decrease our risk of injury. You're not really, probably, if you're a traditional college student, risk of dying prematurely from all causes, you probably think that's not really making a deal for me. So you pick out here what's going to make sense for me. Well, reducing anxiety and depression might really connect with you. It might feel like, well, if I go out and work out with my friends, and I go and I play and I have fun and I go into group exercise, then I feel better emotionally, and I feel less anxious. That can be a really good motivator to becoming more physically active. We also know that the choices that we make when we choose foods, which would be our diet is just what we choose to eat. Having a healthy diet helps us to become more well. Having a healthy body weight, managing our stress, avoiding tobacco and drug use, limiting alcohol, and making safe choices for, like, wearing a seatbelt, even though you don't have to wear a helmet, wearing a helmet if you're on a motorized bicycle or even on a pedal bike is protecting yourself from injury. We also know that when you have good friendships, good relationships, that helps us to become more well. Understanding how to use the healthcare system, making successful plans on how to take care of your environment, your room. We know that you feel better just if you make your bed in the morning. That's your environment. If your house is cluttered, you are cluttered. And it seems to be that your environment that you live in tends to help your dimensions of wellness in your emotional and intellectual area dimensions. So, not just your environment by not littering, but we're looking at being responsible in your overall environment. We do have some factors that we can't control, but keep in mind that just because you have a family member who has a chronic disease or hereditary disease that is, it's not necessarily hereditary, it is a disease, a chronic disease that tends to have, it is a risk factor. For instance, I have heart disease in my family. My father had, he puts me at a risk for, because he had heart attack. I think he was 52. So that's a risk for me. Age is a risk factor. After 55, if you're a woman, after 50, if you're a male, that's a risk factor. That's, age is good, but you can't control that. However, you can control those other behaviors that can counter those uncontrollable factors. So just because you have a family history of cancer per se doesn't mean that you're genetically going to have. Now, I'm saying that generically, right? So don't hold me that I said that that's the 100% fact, because there are some cancers that we are, I'm going to say this is generally. If you have the breast cancer gene, then you really need to speak to your physician and make a decision about that. Behaviors are probably not going to, lifestyle behaviors may not counter that. If you have a family history of heart disease, having a good physical activity, managing your stress, having a good body, looking at a healthy diet, those are going to decrease your risk for that disease. So what does this mean for you? Well, we want to put some thought into how can you become a well person this year? What can you do to be successful academically, physically, emotionally, relationships, sleep well? We're going to look at a number of these factors and help you to have a successful year. And I'm going to end with that.